Velkommen til Learn.tech, en læringsdugnad om teknologi og samfunn, med Silvia Ceres og venner.
Hello and welcome back to Learn Masters on Exponential Growth. I'm Silvia Ceres, my guest is Jennifer Wessels, and this is our third lecture on the topic, which is a chat about tools and tactics of this particular trade. So Jennifer, welcome back, and maybe I'll ask you if there is some set of basically, how do people get started? What should they do if they want to start creating exponential growth in their own business?
Right. So the easiest way to get started is first of all, think about where you can have the greatest value. Where do you see opportunities? Where do you see challenges? Back to the rant. What bugs you today? That's a good starting place of thinking about if I wanted to create something new, if I wanted to change my business, where might I take things? So look for the inefficiencies. Once you have an idea of here's something that could be changed or a way I could make a difference, take a step back and gain what I call peace. Because in order to get from where you are today to that future goal, you need peace of mind, yes. You need peace within your soul because it's going to take a long way to get there, and it does take hard work. And the way I define peace is, firstly, you start with purpose. What is your purpose? Either to solve this problem, it's kind of like the Airbnb example we had, or your purpose may be more strategic, like Jeff Bezos' purpose to really change the way people access and interact with items that they need. So define your purpose. Be very clear on that. Secondly, is to explore. If you believe that the inefficiency that is in front of you is how to most effectively navigate the various transportation system across Oslo, if you believe that is the problem, explore that. Are you the only person having that challenge? Talk to others. Explore options. How would somebody else solve that problem? Spend some time learning from the market point of view what's needed and what's possible. Then, when you have a sense that this really is a problem, I have some ideas on how I could solve it, take action. Just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. But you need something to go back to people and say, that problem we talked about and your ideas, here's something I've kind of cobbled together. Call it a minimum viable product. Here's a thought on how this could be solved. Would you use this? What would you find interesting about it? And begin to build on that action. Because by taking action and doing something, you're proving your passion for solving this problem, and you're beginning to get an opportunity to interface with others and show that you have some ideas. That leads to the C in peace, which is collaboration. Innovation and growth is a team sport. You have to get others involved. And by acting on your ideas, going and sharing with others, they become psychologically connected and want to help you. And through that, you actually reach the final E, which is experience. You get experience in growing. You get experience in trying things new. You get experience in talking about and bringing forth your passion. And you also begin to gain the other side of experience, which is user experience. How do people really interface with this? What is most important? What do they value? And through that experience, you can then define, well, how would I charge somebody for it? What is the thing they value the most? That becomes the business model. Get people to pay for what they value. Based on that experience, you then bring others in that have their own experiences, and then it begins to build 1 + 1 = 3 that leads to that exponential growth. Now, this can all be done through software on the platform that starts with powerful computer technology from semiconductors through the network, through the software, through the AI. That fertile valley of the platform is there today to really support you as you define your purpose, you explore, you take action, you collaborate, and you gain experience.
Very good. So there is this PEACE acronym. If I have made my notes correct, it's about P for purpose, E for experiment, A for action, C for collaboration, and E for experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
Correct.
to me, this is a very proactive, very practical way of approaching a problem. It's not about overthinking. And I think that's one of the problems we often have. You want to do something, and then because it's so important to you, because it's so strategic, you end up over-analyzing, looking for the perfect, proof of traction with all the numbers and the perfect plan and the perfect everything. And while you wait looking for the perfect, the world changes once again. So I want to hear you a little bit about this sense of urgency that has to belie the PEACE acronym.
It truly, truly is. And I think, to be honest, in Norway, there is much more of a tendency to perfect it and to make it better and to make it fabulous before going anywhere with things. That is completely opposite of the Silicon Valley mentality. The Silicon Valley mentality is, I've got an idea, let's just go do it, let's take action, let's try it. If it fails in a week, fine, I'll come up with a different idea. It's a completely different shift. And I think today, more than ever, it's absolutely critical to act quickly because we have this exponentially faster platform, if you will, the technology and the software and the AI. Things move quickly. And so if you have a view and a passion for fixing an inefficiency, if it's truly an inefficiency, somebody else will have the same. So act now, because others can jump onto that platform and spin it much more quickly. Everything goes at least 500 times faster today than it was in the past. So by the time you get around to perfecting, the market could be taken by others. And so that's critical. And especially if you're trying to really define something that is fixing a known need, that need needs to get fixed quickly. So why not jump in and do it? I think part of it comes to risk taking, being willing to take that risk and get it out there. And that takes time to work your head around. But if you've got a strong passion, what's the worst that could happen? It fails. Then you try again.
I think there is this cultural side to that. And I think there might be a higher obstacle in let's say, the Norwegian culture than maybe in Silicon Valley culture, with failure, losing face, and admitting that the first attempt wasn't successful. But I think it's really important for people to realize that it's a necessary part of doing something new. If you haven't failed, then probably you're not innovating enough. If everything went according to the plan, and numbers and customers and everything just got lined up the way you planned it, then it's not an innovation.
Exactly. And in many ways, failure is the number one thing people look for in hiring people in Silicon Valley. Where have you failed? Because that's what you learn from. You learn from what doesn't work. You gain experience, and it shows you're willing to do what it takes. I mean, look at Steve Jobs. Perfect example. I mean, he was a utter absolute failure at one point in his life. I mean, one of the few people that's been exited at the board level from his own company. But he kept that purpose and he kept the passion. and ultimately was able to come back and build a very different business based upon that. Would Apple be where it is today if it weren't for Steve having been thrown out when he was? Hard to say, but I seriously doubt it. I think that made a big difference in the organization.
The other thing that I think is important, so one is the confidence that is required in order for you to be able to take risk, accept that, innovation is failure. I think Churchill had this wonderful quote saying that success in life is nothing but something like stubbornness or persistence in going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And, I really think you have to accept, but the other thing is that it's through failure that we learn, that our
Absolutely.
understanding of the world changes. And that's what you need if you're going to innovate. The other big showstopper for innovation and exponential growth, Jennifer, that I see in people is complacency. This is good enough for me. Why mess with it if it works? I have more than enough work to do. And if it's a problem that really can be placed in several, if it's a monkey that could be on several people's shoulders, they will try to push the monkey around. And so how do we create this ownership of the problem? So I believe it's a big problem, but I also want you, Mr. Customer, to understand that you need to get going on this today.
Yeah.
Complacency.
Complacency is probably one of the biggest challenges I see in the Norwegian society and culture. And in all due respect, I mean, things are pretty darn good here. So, I can understand that if you grow up in Norway and this is the way things operate, there is a tendency to fall back into that. It's all good. The best way to break out of that, though, I believe, is to recognize where could things be better. I mean, there's always something that can be improved, and to have the confidence in oneself that I can make a change. I can bring about a different way of doing things. So build your own confidence that you can make a difference. And if you're truly passionate about solving a problem, bringing something new to the world, if you believe that you have that mission in life to build something that is a legacy that will potentially change the world forever, focus on that. Because if your passion and that desire to drive change is greater than that other side of, well, let's just sleep on it and think about it tomorrow, that will break through. Just keep the focus. That's the purpose. Keep the focus and bring others. Identify others that recognize that inefficiency, that share your passion. We all need people around us supporting us to move forward. So identify others to collaborate with, work together as a team to drive forward. And I mean, if I look at Silicon Valley, that's one of the things that I would say defines the Silicon Valley culture is most people that are there came from other places. Something like 94% of people in Silicon Valley were born in another area, either in America or many times in a different country, and actively took a risk and chose to come to Silicon Valley to be with other innovators. It's a community of people working together. So if you are a change agent with a passion in Norway, find others, build your own community of people that support each other in taking those risks, failing, comparing notes, and driving change. You can't do it alone. It's definitely a team sport.
We are talking now politics, but really, you're reminding me of, just because of the title, of a film, a New Zealand film I love called Once We Were Warriors. And sometimes I think that, we should tell that to Norwegians, once you were Vikings, guys. Go west, be explorers that you were, born to be, and even though your country is, our country, is one of the most successful and most wealthy and most equal and democratic countries in the world today, we can still have it taken from us by this extreme global polarization and the extreme global forces going on now, both in technology and therefore in society. So I think that there is really no space for complacency, and that we should actually use some of the national DNA that might help us regain this explorative streak. And, from what we talked about now, if I summarize, we talked about this technique to structure a project, to get started in practice with the project.
Yeah.
And then we talked about some personality traits almost that are required. And one of them was risk-taking. And I think that is comes about as a result of a combination of confidence in your ability to solve it in the end, and humility, not to worry about having failed a few times along the way. And it's a difficult combination, but I think it is there with absolutely every successful entrepreneur. And you could say, well, how's Steve Jobs humble, or Elon Musk? But they are willing to try, and they don't care that the first rocket or the first iPod, or they are twisting and turning and perfectly happy, being laughed at by naysayers until they come to the goal, and they know they'll come to the goal in the end. So this risk taking, having fun, not taking everything too seriously, that's the first part. The second part we talked about is this hunger, this fight of complacency, understanding that even though life is good enough as it is, there are some things I just have to fix, and nobody other than me can fix them. And that necessity of change, I think, is a very, very important part of that.
Yes. I completely agree. And personally, I do think that Norway is at a critical time, because this platform, as we've talked about, is faster and faster. Change is happening more and more quickly. And by remaining complacent, by not taking the risk, by not pushing forward with urgency, Norway will fall behind. And from some of the statistics I've read recently, is starting to fall behind in areas of technology leadership and market leadership. It's all about understand where are the problems, customer experience, how do we commercialize it, how do we find the value, and how do we grow? And I think it's a huge opportunity for the people in Norway with great technical skills, huge scientific DNA, to re-engage that Viking mentality, become the explorers again. How can we build on our platform of knowledge, skills, academic, science, technology? How can we leverage that with taking risk in commercializing, growing, challenging, innovating, trying something different, and having the confidence to move forward quickly with purpose and with exploration, but moving into action. And that ultimately builds that community of collaborators to build the experience.
I think it is a great summary, Jennifer. And the final point I want to make is that this understanding of the necessity to change, the necessity to keep exploring, to find new solution. We had a run of about, let's say, 50 years of growth and really immense wealth in this country. But if you look at our past, we have a very difficult geography. We have a very difficult climate. And I think that there are advantages in having a difficult start point as well. So I think it would be also useful to think back to, why did we become as good as things that we were very good at? And I think it was because it was necessary to figure it out in a way that nobody else could figure it out. And that sort of line of thought will help us again in this new digital exponential climate change and the set of storms, if you wish.
I completely agree. A phrase we use in Silicon Valley is necessity is the mother of all invention. Look at Airbnb. 3 people that couldn't pay the rent on their apartment. There was necessity. How are we going to get money in? Well, let's rent the floor of the apartment. Right? When the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of trying something different, we act. And so I think for individuals that have an idea, look at it. Where is their pain? Where are people finding challenges? That becomes the rant. Then use your confidence of your skills, the capabilities, and the technology to do something about it now before someone else does.
Excellent. I think that's where we're going to stop with lecture number 3. And in a couple of minutes, we are meeting for our last lecture or conversation. And that one's going to be more, let's say, a play date on the topic of how would we create exponential growth in a particular company. I'm going to put forward Learn as an example, but I really want our audience to think about their own company having kind of this conversation with you. So see you in a short while.
Perfect. Thank you.
Du har nå lyttet til en podcast fra learn.tech, en læringsdugnad om teknologi og samfunn. Nå kan du også få et læringssertifikat for å lytte til denne podcasten på vårt online universitet learn.university.